The day that woman pulled up to my farm, I was up to my elbows in oil, sweat pouring off me, focused only on patching up that beat-up tractor and wrapping up another ordinary day. I never imagined that in less than a day, my whole world would turn completely around thanks to a few words from someone I'd never met. I'm Jay Carlin. I'm 27 years old, and for the last 3 years, I've been handling my family's farm by myself in Sydney, out in western Nebraska. It's nothing special, just a couple hundred acres growing corn and wheat, plus some cows, on ground that's been in the family for ages. My mom and dad passed away in a car crash back in 2022, and suddenly all they'd worked for fell right into my lap. I stuck with it because this place is the only thing I have left of them. Getting rid of it wasn't something I could even think about. Life out here is straightforward, but tough. I get up before the sun, take care of the livestock, repair the fences that the wind always messes up, and cross my fingers that the weather doesn't wreck my harvest. I'm not rolling in cash, but I make it work. Most of the time, it's only me, the dirt, and that big open sky over Nebraska. That day, in late March, seemed like any other. It was hotter than usual, pushing 80 degrees, with that dry breeze full of earth and dust. I was out near the barn tinkering with the tractor, a country tune humming low on the radio. That's when I heard the sound of wheels rolling over the gravel drive. That got my attention right away. Folks don't drop by unannounced around here. I cleaned my hands on an old cloth and glanced up to spot a shiny black SUV rolling in. It was spotless, the type that sticks out like a sore thumb on a rough road like this. The door swung open, and out stepped a woman. She was on the taller side, dressed neat in a jacket and shoes with heels that dug right into the loose dirt. Her reddish-brown hair was pulled back tight, but I noticed her hands trembling a bit as she fixed her bag. What really stood out were her eyes. They looked sharp, but worn out, like she'd been running on empty for a while. She made her way over to me, stepping carefully to avoid tripping on the bumpy ground. "Are you Jay Carlin?" I gave a nod, still puzzled. "Yeah, that's me. What can I do for you?" She paused to catch her breath, scanned the farm quick, then locked eyes with me. "I'm Lauren Hargrove. I have to get married by tomorrow." I stopped dead in my tracks. The cloth dropped from my grip, just dangling there. For a moment, I figured it had to be some prank or trick, but she looked dead serious. No grin, no second thoughts. "Sorry," I said, drawing it out. "You need what now?" Rather than pulling back, she dug into her bag and handed me a fat stack of papers. "If I'm not married before I turn 29 tomorrow, I lose my spot running my company." I skimmed through the stuff, legal papers, a will, some news clips. The Hargrove Agribusiness. I'd heard of them. A huge farming business out of Kearney, with property and work spread across Nebraska, some even right next to my land. She kept her eyes on me. "My grandpa started it. His will requires me to be married to keep running things. Otherwise, it all goes to my cousin, Tyler Hargrove." I passed the papers back, my mind racing. Why pick me? We don't even know each other. She paused for a second. "Your land touches one of ours. I looked into you. You're on your own, not mixed up in business games, and you're not the type to take payoffs. My old fiancé walked out last week after I said no to deals that would squeeze out little operations like yours. Tyler would wreck everything my grandpa believed in." I rested against the fence, trying to wrap my head around it. I'd caught wind of stuff about Tyler Hargrove, taking over places, pushing people around, driving farmers out, the same crowd my folks had stood up against all their lives. "So, what's the ask here?" I said. "A real marriage on paper," she answered. "We file it tomorrow. The legal team takes care of the details. Once I lock in the board, we can end it without fuss." I shook my head. "I'm not in this for cash. If I say yes, no tricks. And if it turns into something more, that's our call." She seemed caught off guard, then agreed. "Okay." We sealed it with a handshake right by the barn, her smooth hand against my calloused one. I had no clue then, but that grip kicked off the whole thing. The next morning hit me like it wasn't my own day. Lauren and I headed into town right after the sun came up. The sky had a soft pink glow over the crops, and the road was empty except for the steady rumble of her SUV. We didn't say much, not out of weirdness, but because we both got how odd this was. Two people who didn't know each other, driving to get married, no romance behind it, no relatives around, no party planned after. The courthouse in Sydney was basic and plain, a brick spot with flags waving out front and a handful of vehicles parked. Lauren's attorney was waiting, along with my neighbor Tom, who said he'd stand as a witness after I asked for the help, and swore I'd fill him in later. The whole thing wrapped up quick. No bands, no personal promises beyond the basics the rules called for. We put our signatures down, gave the judge a handshake, and boom, Lauren Hargrove was my wife. I glanced at her as we headed out. She seemed less stressed, but her shoulders were still tight, like she was ready for more trouble. This wasn't anyone's dream way to start out, especially not for a person like her. But it was official. By that night, the forms were already processed. Lauren's crew moved quick. They were putting together notices for the Hargrove agribusiness to show the will was met. On the ride back to the farm, she gazed out at the wide open space, her fingers drumming soft on her leg. "Thanks for this, Jake," she said low. "It means a lot." "Let's just keep it straight," I said back. "For this to go right, we need some ground rules." She agreed. Fair enough. That evening, she headed back to Kearney to grab her stuff and deal with work. The place went back to its usual quiet. I didn't sleep great, going over it all in my mind, wondering if I'd just done the best or worst thing ever. She showed up again the next day with a couple of bags and a focused expression. "Tyler's already stirring things up," she said while I helped with her luggage. "He's got people digging. If this looks phony, he'll fight it legally. I have to live here all the time." I pointed her to the spare room, the one my parents used to have. I'd left it pretty much as is, new bedding, swept floors, but the old feelings were still there. It was odd letting someone in there. Those first couple of days were uncomfortable. Our routines were worlds apart. I'd be out the door at first light, slipping on my work shoes and hitting the barn. Lauren would start later, making coffee in my beat-up pot and diving into online meetings with her team and the board. Her words echoed through the rooms, strong and direct, while I'd come in midday, grimy and worn out, snagging a quick bite before going back out. We stuck to simple talk. Coffee's done. Connection's lagging. Fence is busted again. It was like two different lives sharing space. Then, on the third day, things started to change. I was outside mending a fence piece when Lauren appeared next to me in pants and a plain top carrying a hot drink container. She looked a little awkward, but ready. "Can I pitch in?" she asked. I gave her some gloves, doubting she'd stick with it long. She asked about stuff, paid attention, picked it up. She poked her finger once and muttered under her breath, then laughed at it and pushed on. That evening, she gave cooking a shot. Overdid the eggs a tad, but we had a good laugh. It turned into our first solid chat. She shared about her grandpa and his goal to support small setups. I shared about my folks and the dry spells they got through. Things eased up between us. The trouble ramped up soon after. Tyler put in a formal complaint about our setup. News pieces popped up online, making me out like some money-hungry guy after a quick score. People started poking around town. Lauren tackled it straight, speaking up for us, linking her name to mine. I was impressed by how tough she held on. Then the dirty trick started. One morning, I spotted my water lines cut straight across. Flooding wrecked half the new plants. Lauren's expression turned hard when I told her. "That's him," she said. "He's stepping it up." The big moment hit a week later in a bad weather hit. I caught a whiff of smoke and bolted to the storage building. Fire was already spreading up the sides. I battled it with what I had until help showed. We lost a bunch of tools and supplies. I dropped down in the dirt, beat and singed. Lauren came running, worry all over her. Back inside, she tended my hands careful, with tears running down. "I caused this," she said soft. I disagreed. "No way. We'll handle it as a team." That evening, the whole thing felt different. The agreement wasn't just business anymore. As the gusts shook the glass and she stayed close, I saw I wasn't guarding a plan, I was guarding her. After the fire night, it all stopped feeling like an act. Lauren didn't head back to Kearney. She settled in like the farm was truly hers, not a temporary spot. She dipped into her funds to replace the ruined gear, kept every record straight, every transaction above board. She backed me up in talks with the insurance folks, pushed back when they tried shortcuts, and never acted like she was bailing me out. We were in it together, even if we hadn't labeled it. The media kept at it. Reports twisted facts, called our bond a setup, labeled me a tool. It stung more than I thought. Not for me, but because they doubted what had grown real. Lauren faced them direct. In her talks, she highlighted common goals, standing up for independent workers, why this bond counted. She linked us solid every time. Tyler doubled down. A week on, Lauren took a call that wiped the life from her look. Tyler had pushed for a rush check on our status with the board, a full review of the marriage. If they called it fake, she'd lose the business right then, and I'd get dragged into court stuff, maybe even charges for teaming up. We had 48 hours. Those days were a mess. Legal folks didn't stop. Locals signed statements saying they spotted us out. Pictures from store trips, joint schedules, clear money trails, all set up like proof for a case. But the tough part wasn't the papers, it was the feelings. That night, we sat out front watching the bugs light up over the land. The air felt warm, thick with ground and plant smells. Lauren spoke first. "What if it all falls apart?" she asked. "The business? All of it?" I turned to her and said what I felt, no holding back. This isn't a deal to me anymore. I don't know when it switched, but it did. She faced me, surprised. Then she took my hand slow. This time, it was real. We sat there, hands locked, till it got dark. The meeting happened in Kearney. Tyler was on the display, looking pleased like he'd won already. He trashed our marriage as bogus, called me a small-time guy, threw out fraud claims. The group fired off tough questions. Quick wedding, separate money, no past. Then Lauren got up. She owned that it began out of need, to guard her grandpa's work. Then she dropped what caught everyone off guard. She said she'd come to love me, not for status or looks, but because I saw her as a partner, not a prize. Before Tyler could jump in, her attorney showed fresh proof. Camera clips from the farm caught someone starting the blaze. Sound picked up a voice. Tyler's. Money records came next. Payoffs, schemes. The screen went quiet. Tyler looked pale as officials walked into his space. The board paused the whole thing right away. An hour later, they started back. Tyler was out. The marriage stood as good. Lauren kept full say. When it wrapped, she fell into my hold, trembling. I kept her close, getting that we'd gone past a point of no return. We didn't just make it through side by side. We picked each other. Once the meeting was done, things calmed in a way that seemed almost too good. For weeks, we'd dealt with stress, worry, and constant watching. Then it ended. Tyler got locked up, his supporters kicked off the board, and the danger was gone. The farm seemed lighter, like it could relax. And we could too. Lauren went back to her job with more drive than ever. The board backed her solid now, and she got right to fixing things. She changed up the setup, dropped the bad agreements that hurt small places, and focused on ways that lasted. She never dragged me into her side unless I wanted. She knew this land was my base, same as her business was for her. Instead, she helped in small ways, funds for better water systems, links to good sellers, support that let me stay on my own. At the house, things fell into a solid rhythm. Mornings turned shared, her making coffee while I handled the animals. Nights had us out front, seeing the sky shift from bright to warm tones. The spare room became ours bit by bit. Her outfits hung by my work clothes, her shoes next to my boots at the door. It just happened, no big talk. We clashed now and then, over calls cutting into meals, my hard-headed way of not seeking aid. But those spats led to getting each other, not pulling away. We figured out balance. For the first time since my Terrence were gone, the place felt alive again. Close to a year later, around the date of our quick courthouse thing, we decided on something. Not for a document, not for a group, but because we felt like it. We did the event right on the farm, under that big Nebraska sky. Nothing fancy, no rush, just field flowers, hanging bulbs, locals, and pals. Lauren had on a basic white outfit that caught the breeze. I had clean shoes and a shaky grin. The same judge ran it, smiling through. We made our own words, real ones, about choosing each other, sticking through hard times, creating something true. When I put the band on her hand, it hit me how much had shifted. What kicked off as a desperate move had grown into care. What started as a paper thing had become our days. Now, when we sit out front in the evenings, the land rolling out ahead, I recall that first time she drove up in her black SUV. She showed up needing a spouse. She stayed because we wanted this.